Okay.
All right, sweet guys.
Yeah.
Everyone, we're live together with Hamel, and maybe Jason will pop in. And I guess the reason why we have this is because people have been asking a lot of questions about evals, about building reliable systems, about what Hamel's going to be teaching next. Well, here we are. Hamel, what are you going to be teaching next?
So I'm still trying to figure that out. That has been I've been struggling to figure it out. So the reason I'm motivated to teach something is like, as you know, I've been doing consulting, but like consulting is really hard to scale. I can only work with one person at a time, and when I keep seeing the same problem happening over and over again, I feel very frustrated. And think like, oh, there's probably a better way to affect change than working with one person at a time. Um, and it's not the case like necessarily that there's like I need to build some SaaS tool to solve this problem, because that's not what it is. It's like a lot of these problems, are things like look at your data or whatever, which no matter the tools are not gonna help you. And in fact, like that's what I keep saying is like people are obsessed with tools and they don't go through the process. Um, so like I did some experiments to try to figure out what resonates with people, because like I also don't want to waste my time. And the consulting work that I do, so I tend to do a lot of work that's like more technical in nature, like helping people get unblocked with, building production AI systems, evals, stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff I run into is like very like strategic in nature. Like a lot of the problems, like not hiring the right people, um, not having a sensible product strategy for AI, like just investing in the wrong things, not understanding like what LLMs are good for and what they're not good for, things like that. Like people get really off track when they come, like when I like, start to do these consulting engagements. A lot of times it's like, well, like we need to fix these other more strategic problems, and so like I did a so I thought, okay, like it might be good to educate like executives, or like basically the people who have decision making power over these types of aspects that I keep consulting with, so that they can you know like not make these mistakes. So one kind of problem though is I don't usually communicate to executives directly. Like I'm more of a developer. I'm a developer myself. I'm not an executive, even though I do consulting for executives. Like I'm not in those shoes. That's the problem number one. Problem number two is, a lot of these like, um, you know, executive speak. Like if I read like Harvard Business Review, or like if I read, if like the publications that executives tend to read, whatever it is, like I don't know, Gartner or whatever the hell it is, all that stuff is complete. Like I just don't care about it, and I just goes over like I. It's not that it goes over my head. I'm just like I don't even know why it's valuable. Like when I read it, I'm just like, well, yeah. But this is really interesting because somebody finds it valuable. I just don't understand why. So, you know, I thought, okay, like I need to figure out how to communicate to executives. So like then what I did is, um, I partnered with my friend Greg Secarelli, who is an executive. I said I was like, hey, do you want to try to teach this course? But instead of like launching a course, what I did is, I actually took a chapter from Jason's playbook. Said, okay, like let's not do a course, let's like do an email course, which is like not it's free. I'm not gonna charge anyone, but like at least first I can like try to figure out what the hell, like how to say whatever I'm gonna say, and like put some material down and like get some feedback. But then also like see if like it resonates. People tell me just like, hey, this is valuable, or no, it's not valuable, go fuck yourself, or like whatever. So like, okay, so what I did is I put together this email course. It was like 10, it was 9 days long. This is really 10 days long. And it was a bunch of emails that talk about a lot of the mistakes people make, but it was a lot of detail actually. There was, um, there's some. Actually, I can share my screen and like show you
Go for it.
some stuff.
You should have
So
permissions. Yeah.
yeah, so I can just show you the behind the scenes view of some of this. Wait, how do I share my screen? 1 second. Share screen. Okay. Um, I need to open my settings. Oh, it might make me restart.
Uh-oh. It's okay. We can wait for you to come back if you want to
Okay,
share a
okay. All
screen.
right, let's do
Yeah.
that. I think that'll be more compelling.
Okay. Oops. Now it's me again. Just me. We'll see how long Hamel takes to come back. By the meantime, I've been pulling up the question. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them on the YouTube. I've also in the YouTube chat or drop them on the tweet thread. I've pulled up the questions from Flo and Amgat, and we'll address that after Hamel does this sharing over here. Because I think there's a very valuable sharing in what Hamel is teaching, what Hamel is mentioning, in a sense, which is the prototyping aspect, where he prototyped the idea for his course of AI for executives. And Hamel, I'll let you take it from here. Yeah, his email course, so we can see it now.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see if it works now. Entire screen. Let's try that. Okay, so like I had this course and like I'll show you some snippets from it. Uh Let me see. I have some GitHub repos that'll help me find the stuff. So there's stuff like this, which is like how to communicate. That people really like this one, for example. Like, okay, like basically I was telling executive like stop using jargon. Like speak in plain language because then everyone on your team can understand. This is actually like, sort of what I keep seeing over and over again. When I'm like on the ground. It seems like it might seem dumb, but it actually like is really important. So there was things like this, like basically like, okay, different materials. Um, Also had materials like how to review data step by step. I ended up incorporating this into like some blog posts I wrote later, but basically like how to use data, examples of data, um, and like basically like more of the higher level, like not like getting too much into the weeds, but like examples of like what you might discover if you look at data. Um, Anyways, there was like a pretty extensive email course. It was like 9 days long. I can actually show you the convert kit stuff. So like it's in this like sequences here. So this is the email sequence. There's like welcome email all the way to this like
This is really behind the scenes, guys. Like
really
Hamel,
is really behind the
it's
scenes.
like
Yeah.
really behind the scenes. Like Hamel's taking you through his process of how he's going through this and how he decided not to go ahead, which is very
So
valuable.
yeah, so like okay, like we had like every email, these email sequences. Like I can click on like this one to get a report. So it's like the analytics is a little bit clunky, but we have like okay, like 400 people in this email course, 80% open rate, which is like really high for like at least this email. It kind of hovered around like 60%, which is like still pretty high. Um, and basically like um, if we have 400 people go through this, um, we had like different, those like handouts and things that I showed you, like I showed you some examples of already. And so people got all the way through this thing. Um, and then we had like, hey, we can offer like a paid course at the very end of it. Um, that we can like they'll allow us to put more time into it, like than these emails. Like, so let me show you an example of these emails. Like some of these emails are pretty fun actually. Like I have to find a way to make them more public, I guess. I'd have to think about how to make them into like blog posts or I don't know. But it's really fun. It's like, okay, like this one is talking about having zero error on evals and like why sometimes people get misleading advice. Um, and then, whatever. And this is like a set of emails and it's totally free. And so like by the end of it, um, what's very, very interesting is like, okay, people kept opening the emails. They didn't get too many unsubscribes. Um, but then, like at the end, no one, not a single soul bought the course. Um, and that was really interesting. We're like, okay, like maybe the emails were enough, or maybe people really didn't, maybe it wasn't as valuable. So like, okay, so I got this information. 400 people went through this email course. No one was interested in buying a paid course. We even offered everyone like a 30% discount. Um, so then like what I do, like then I talk to people. Um, so I like decided to talk to 5 different people that took this course. Like I chose them kind of somewhat at random, this kind of people I felt comfortable reaching out to. And what I discovered was like this is not niche enough. Okay, it's like this the landing page. Let me show you the landing page for the course. Um, so like landing page was kind of strong. It's like AI mastery for busy executives. This kind of not my language usually, but whatever. But people were like, hey, I don't know if this is for me. Like there's good information in the course, but like you know the people were like way too different. Like one person, for example, was barely used AI ever in their life. They used ChatGPT once. Another person like thought AI is complete hype and didn't think it had any use cases at all. Another person was like actually implementing AI in their company. They like got stuck. And so it's really interesting because like if you're too kind of general, try to appeal to everybody, then like yeah, like it's at the end of the day, this didn't work. It's not niche enough. And then also like this is not like my audience, like I said. So like even if you look at the emails, like so let's go back to ConvertKit. If you look at the emails, like I wrote some emails and Greg wrote some emails. So like the flavor of my emails are very different. I can show you. Um, so like, yeah, it's like this is an email about how, you know, you should focus on processes, not tools. And like, there's a case study of a company, what they did. I've given a talk about this at AI Engineer World's Fair, whatever. So you've seen it before. Then this is the avoiding jargon thing. I have a handout of avoiding jargon, whatever. So it's kind of like tactical. Like Greg's is a little bit more like strategy. So let me show you a version of that. Um, so this is like Greg's email. There's like strategy where you have like, a diagnosis. And then there's a define your strategy worksheet that will take you here. Um, and then Greg wrote a detailed example of like how to create your strategy. Again, like I don't ever use anything like this myself. Like I didn't understand this. Like I still kind of don't know like because I haven't been an executive myself. I'll just be honest with you. But like I was like, okay, like this is, people like these kind of strategy frameworks. Um, you know, so the one another problem was is like two different voices going on. You know, like me, that's like very whatever, like telling you about like these kind of tactical things. And then there's Greg is telling you like about strategy and like how to craft it. And so I think that was also confusing for people. So like basically like, we spent about I want to say we spent about 80 hours on this email course. And it would have taken a lot longer, like help, obviously automated as much as possible. So one mistake was like not being niche enough. Second was like not like, I discovered like I need to stick with my audience or stick with like what I am comfortable in talking about. Like partnering with someone else to like fill gaps doesn't really work. Like maybe it just doesn't work. Um, but another thing I learned is like, um, yeah, it's like maybe I just shouldn't put so much effort into it in the beginning. Like, this is like entire email course. Maybe I should just do a landing page, you know? It's like 80 hours of work or something approaching that level. I don't know. It's kind of a fail. Um, like I worked on the weekends and stuff like that to like make it sort of to like fill it out so it wouldn't impact my clients. Like we kind of like we sort of fussed about the wording and the language and like made sure the emails were good or whatever. We did a lot of like fuss. But like, at the end of the day, it like didn't really do anything. So it's kind of like not good for a consulting business to like, do this. You should get like more higher level signal up front. So what I did is a landing page here. So the next thing I was like, okay, maybe whatever, this is like not going anywhere. Just forget about it. So like I made this. So like I talk about evals a lot. So for the evals, I
Hamel,
created this.
Hamel, can I
Yeah,
just take 2 minutes
yeah.
to? So I think Hamel shared a lot, right? And I think there's a lot of valuable lessons here. The first thing is that I think Hamel mentioned the point about the course was not being very niche, right? It's like, okay, it's trying to address the tactical, trying to address the strategic, maybe a bit of operation in the middle. I think the valuable point there is that, okay, you probably, if you're trying to do this yourself, if you're trying to produce content or write or tweet, you probably want to be focused on the very narrow aspects first. And as you start growing, your circle of influence grows bigger, and then you can expand to other areas. So I mean, from this example, I think Hamel is sharing very openly about the different voices and the different people who are working on this cause. I think that's very valuable. I think the second thing
I don't
that's
even know you should like branch out per se. Like
yeah,
because like
maybe
the more like you dilute it, like it's really diluted if you start to become too generic. Like
exactly. You try to
and
serve
you
everyone, you
can't
serve
really
no one.
charge as much. Like so it's like really hilarious. Like if if the course was um you know, AI for executives who are leading data science teams at technology companies, then I could like really that would be interesting. Like
You could really
imagine
zoom in. Yeah.
you really zoom in. And if you are like a executive at a technology company leading like a analytics or data team, you'd be like, oh wow, like there's no other course ever in the
This is
world
for me.
that'll
This is just
yeah
for me. Yeah.
yeah
Yes,
yeah
your audience size would shrink a bit, but for them, it would be so much more compelling. And
yeah.
I think it could work a lot better. I think the other thing that Campbell mentioned was that he spent 80 hours on this, and that was a lot of time. I don't know if it was a lot of time. I think that it was a failing fast in the sense that, okay, he put in a lot of effort, crafted a lot of really solid emails. Those are very helpful. If you can sign up for the email course right now, I think you should. But he got very valuable signal. I think like, was it 400 subscribers and zero conversion rate? And okay, then I think that's very very quick, right? We just decide we will not invest in a video course, a Maven course, a live course, which would not have any conversions, may not have any conversions as well based on this early signal that we got. So I thought the email course was a great example of a prototype to help you gain conviction of your larger implementation. So I thought that was very valuable, and people should be doing more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. I learned like how to do an email course, how to like I created a system actually to like create these emails, like have AI create these emails, like assist me in creating high quality emails that I felt good about. Like basically I had a whole system to go from voice transcript to email, kind of like inspired by Jason, like mixing in some other stuff. Then I was like, it also helped me think, like, okay, what do I want to talk about? Like, how do I want to get this information out of my head? And it's not all like a waste. Like, there's certain parts of the email course I'll like use
Definitely.
later. Like,
Yeah.
I also hired some people. So like, this if you know anything about ConvertKit, like this is like architected at 10 different email sequences.
Yeah. How come?
Well, that's because I hired somebody who's an expert in ConvertKit. That person said, okay, like we need to have we need to like have all kinds of fancy analytics, do all kinds of tagging and segmentation of your audience. They set up these like visual automations here that you see. And I actually like it was way more complicated. Like this does not like basically it was like trying to use Kubernetes to deploy a static site. I was like, I just want a static site. I just want an email course. Like, I don't want all this. Like, I couldn't change it. Like, I didn't understand like how to change. Like, I wanted to like take an email out, for example, and I was like, I don't even know like how to take this out because it was like so much complexity. It was insane. And I was like, I don't, and that's why these were like, whatever. So basically, like, um, these were architected as different sequences that then were like, you know, even after I simplified it, because I didn't want to undo the whole thing, it was just architected as like, you get this email sequence, then you get subscribed to this other one automatically, and this other one. The user doesn't, the reader doesn't know this, but like that's what
I
happened.
see, I see.
So like when I hired an expert, they went straight to their expert level. Like it's like very common thing in tech, right? Like you hire like I'm like, oh, I need a DevOps person. Well, like, yeah, for your static site, DevOps person might just deploy it on Kubernetes. And so, like, what I learned is like, okay, like, no, like, this is not what I want. Like, I'm just beginning this stuff. Like, this is really bad. This is like tremendous amount of technical debt. And so I realized like I need to. As another fail. Like, I
Th-
spend money on that to like help. I learned something about ConvertKit, but like
that's
also
valuable.
learned like okay when you hire experts you have to kind of like yeah it can be
Have
especially
guardrails.
yeah you have to put
Yeah.
guardrails around it. You have to like say you have to keep things simple. I didn't even know what was simple and was not simple. I thought this was like the way to do it, but like it's only when I try to change it that I figured out like okay this is insane. um
Okay, your second course.
yeah, so then I was like okay like maybe I shouldn't talk about all this strategy stuff. Like I don't even understand like half of it. Like forget it. Maybe I'll just stick to what I always talk about is like evals. And like maybe it's just do a course on evals or like try to talk about evals. So I had this idea like okay, forget all this stuff. Let me just do a landing page where like I can just directly like I'm not going to do an email course. I'm going to first see like how many people are interested in this topic at all. And also I want to see like what aspects are they interested in. So I created this like landing page. There's also built in fast HTML just for fun. But so like if you look at it, you're like, oh, a lot of people voted, like 600 whatever people voted on like process of building and aligning LLM judge for subjective writing application, whatever. And then there's this part about subscribing, but and it's like my intuition is, okay, like this is all fun and games, but like you're not really interested in the topic unless you're like subscribing to this unless you subscribe like otherwise you're just like kind of looking at it and laughing like so like you're like oh this is fun I'm just gonna upvote right but you don't really care it's not it's like an intent signal so despite like this page being viewed fair number of times I'll show you the statistics so this one LM eval interest only had a conversion rate of like 15%. That isn't like let's like you might think 15% is large,
That's
but
not
like
bad.
the executive email course had a 40% conversion rate and it had like 1,000 visitors. Okay, like this one had like 500 visitors, had a 15%. So I'm
Huh.
like that's significantly worse.
Huh, that's interesting.
Um, and like when I do SEO, on when I do like SEO, and let me just show you. So it's like I don't know if you've looked at this. So let's like take a look. So that's actually pretty interesting. Um, and I'm not an expert, okay, in this in SEO stuff, so I'm just kind of like trying. But like not that many people are searching for like LM evals. It's like very low amount, you know. There's not that much competition for these keywords, but it's not really like people are searching. But like if you look at like what is showing up here, you'll see like I mean, you'll see like Eugene's blog in here somewhere and like you see my blog maybe. So like it's not really, and like you do LLM as a judge. So like, let's look at that, for example. That's the one I was thinking of. Let me do a keyword. You see LM as a judge. You'll see like Eugene. It's like the circle of people like that write about this, and like there's not that much, but there's not much search volume. So like at some point you got to be honest with yourself. Like, okay, this stuff here, maybe I just don't like forget it. Like why should I do a course on LM evals? Like maybe it's these different signals telling me. Now I will say like every time I do write about LM evals, they get tremendous amount of interest. So it could be just the way, it could just be a marketing goof up, or it could be like something else, because every like the last two articles I've written about evals, like these two, like this one, creating LMS judges drive business results, and um, like your AI product needs evals, like those have been very popular. But then again, like, does that really translate into intent? And I don't know, like, it's an open question. Like, I don't think consulting wise necessarily, it might be good for, I mean, it certainly is like good for education, but it may not be, I have to be careful of like how much effort I put into what, if that makes sense. Um,
It does. Thank you, Hamel. I didn't know that. Yeah, and thank you for sharing behind the scenes of how the conversion
Yeah.
rate like
And
is
what
done
I
on the
was
user
thinking
side.
of is like, so like this course, this SEO course, which actually was like really good. Danny, I don't know if you've seen this.
Yep.
So the way that he marketed his course is actually went like he inverted it. So he just said like, here's a Stripe link. I'm gonna do SEO course. If you're interested, just pay. There's like no email course, no nothing, whatever. Um, and then so like he got a lot of just people paying for it. Um, and based on that, he could see like, okay, then he could like invest in it, Um,
I, I think that's how
so
Levels did it as well. He had this
yeah,
book called Make, whereby he just
yeah,
started charging for it, even though he didn't write it. And then once I think he charged like $5,000, he's like, okay, I'm gonna write it. And I think the plan was okay, if you didn't hit that amount, he'll just refund everything.
yeah.
I think yeah, money is the one that really demonstrates interest and intent. So
Yeah, it's not even about money, it's about like actual interest. Like the money is like the signal that you can
people are
follow
interested
that
enough
that
to
gradient.
invest
'Cause it's like
money and
easy
time
to
in it.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Because if you're gonna like put some money into it, doesn't matter how much you put, like $50 on something,
You're
you're
gonna
gonna
follow up.
pay, yeah, you're gonna pay attention. You're gonna feel bad if you don't.
It's just
So it's
like
like,
when Coursera introduced certificates, right? You had to pay for the Coursera course and get the certificate. The people who actually paid for the course actually had way higher completion rate. But of course, maybe it's correlation, not causation. So it's hard to tell. Oh, but that was very cool, Hamel. Thank you for sharing. I actually have one thing I wanted to ask you about, which is this. Why were you surprised that this is the
oh
most
yeah.
popular? Yeah, why?
Um, yeah, because to me, it's like the question is very self, and like it's very like self-referential in a way. It's like, I think I put that one, I seeded that one in potentially. So it's not like someone else wrote it, but um, like basically, your eval is working if you're able to, your eval process is working if you're able to move those metrics. And those metrics, if you're able to move a metric that your business cares about, if you're able to actually like impact it. Otherwise, it's not working. Then there's a lot to unpack in that sentence, like, because it's not
I
even
think
about the
so.
eval. It's like, can you achieve a result? That's how you know it's working. But the result has to be like a real result, not a vanity result. So like, um, it's really interesting that was the question, because it's almost not like an eval question. It's more like a philosophical question.
I actually think the same way, but from a different dimension. When a lot of times when people ask me about sharing me about their LM evaluators or they share me their service, I ask them, "How are you evaluating your LM evaluator?" And then they just freeze, like a deer in headlights, right? It's like, what do you mean? The LM is supposed to be correct all the time. It's like, that's not true. I mean, you're gonna need to evaluate it and align it with your human judgment. How are you doing that? And a lot of people actually haven't even considered that, haven't even thought about that. So that's what I thought this question was about.
Hmm.
They just expect the LLM to be the source of truth, and we just use it. But as you know, in your work, in your recent writing on how to align your LLM as a judge, right? There's a lot of work that actually goes into that, and
Hmm.
I think that process, and you've laid out a very nice process for
So
people
I
to
did.
follow.
Let me show you some other behind the scenes. One more that could be
Okay.
interesting. So I did. So along the lines of the eval, ALM eval, someone did reach out to me and they said like, "Hey, we would like to help you create an email course for evals." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know, like, what does that look like?" So like they, um, there's actually, I don't know if this is the right document. Let me see if I can find it. Um,
Oh, I chatted with benchmark thing as well. We should chat about that.
Actually, hold on. Let me find it. Am I still
No
sharing?
problem. Nope, you're done.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure. I just have to open my email. I don't want to.
Yeah, no problem.
Uh,
And then after this, sorry Flo, we're taking so long. After this, we'll go through Flo's questions and guides, and then I think we can call it.
Actually, you know what? We can just move on to that.
Oh,
Basically,
okay.
basically I hired I am experimenting with like having someone help me create an email course, but it's actually very difficult for technical writing because they have to like completely grok the information that's in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of doesn't. Yeah, it's really hard. Like this content stuff is like you have to be really careful. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm still learning about email courses. Like it's interesting. Like email as a platform is interesting. But yeah, I think you just have to be really intentional about like where you spend your time and try to do small experiments because like yeah, I really made some mistakes.
Thank you for sharing so openly. Okay, I want to go into Flo's next questions, and I think there's a lot of like Hamel can chime in as well. So I think Flo, I think this was just in response to, I mean, Flo was just asking, hey, should we do office hours? And I was like, okay, let's do an office hours, and we're doing it now. And Flo's question was about align eval. AE is align eval, and for folks who are not familiar with it, this is how it looks like. I'm just gonna present this screen again. Align eval is just a very small prototype I made to help people label their data, try to create some kind of LM evaluator, and eventually optimize it. All right, so that's that. And Flo's first question is, have companies reach out about Align Eval? Well, you'll be funny actually. A few startups have actually reached out. They're like wanting to understand my thought process and my thinking about it around it. And actually, one startup actually wanted to create a leaderboard on it around some specific data set that they had. Some holdout data set, and then some hidden, basically some open data set where you try to build an LLM evaluator around, and then some holdout data set. Essentially like LLM evaluators, but like a Kaggle thing. I thought that sounded fun, and I was willing to do that. I haven't gotten back on the feedback yet, so we'll see. So have I convinced leadership in my org to use it? Well, I've demoed it.
I've heard other tools like vendors have started to look at align eval.
Oh,
So
really? I
yeah,
didn't hear about that. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's so the reason why I built it was that I've been researching a lot about LLM evaluators. I've been debating a lot about LLM evaluators. I think like 6 months ago, I can't remember. Was it 6 months ago? Hamel and I were in a park in SF debating about it. And then that's when this brainstorm Hamel had, right? He had this great idea, which is that it's not just about aligning the LLM to the human. It's also about aligning the human to the LLM. Aligning LLM to the human is really LLM evaluator, right? Aligning the human to the LLM is really look at your data, right? So that's what align eval. And I was very inspired by that. I was like, yes, that's the way. So I tried to, but the way I wanted to do it was very opinionated, was a little bit extreme. You can't even write an LLM evaluator until you label some data, and you can't even optimize until you label more data. So as a public beta, the amount of data that you have to label is only 20 and 50. In this example over here, if I was building this in like a solid enterprise tool, it would be 100 and 400. Because if you imagine, right, if you have 100 samples, every one single mislabeled sample is like a 1% uh, instability, right? It's like 1% variance. So with 400, every 1% of error, one error is only about 0.25, which makes it more stable. At least that's how I think about it. So with 20, every one error is one error in human labeling is 5% variance. So you can see that we actually need quite a fair amount of data. So have I convinced leadership in my org to use it? Well, I've demoed it to a few people, and everyone's like really excited. I mean, long story short, a lot of my prototyping and building, right? It's really a prototype, like Align Eval is really a prototype of a longer term vision. And now that I've built it, now that I've gotten a lot of feedback from Hamel, from Shreya, from a lot of people who've used it, from startups that have reached out, from people that have chatted about it, I now have a far clearer vision. And Align Eval is just a V1. I know V2 will be way better, way more scalable. So I'm I love it. Yeah. Have I used Align Eval data to fine tune new models? No. The data that people upload to Align Eval, all the labels and all the LM generated explanations and predictions, well, that's not accessible. I don't access it. No one is able to access it. That said, I do think that the concept of Align Eval, and I think Flo hit the nail on the head, is that after labeling and after aligning your LLM evaluator, and after you've done a little bit of evaluation, once you have a few thousand samples, you can distill an evaluator model. And this evaluator model can perform at much higher scale and much lower latency, much higher throughput. And like that's the long-term vision, right? Like that becomes the long-term vision. Not everyone needs that. If you only need to evaluate, a few hundred samples a day, I think just using an LM API would be good enough. But if your scale is like hundreds of thousands or millions a day, and you actually not evaluating samples, you actually want to guardrail everything, you can distill your LM evaluator into a guardrail. Right. That's a long term. That's the phase 2, phase 3. So I think Flo really saw it. Would I build with TypeScript again? Oh, that's a sensitive question, man. I mean, I know when I was building a very first V0 of this, which is just tables, right? I tried building this with uh, what is it called? Fast HTML. I tried building this with ServletKit. And that's my experience here. And Hamel was so kind to say that, if I wanted to build something with fast HTML, he offered a pair program with me. That was nuts, right?
We got
So I tried
Jeremy's broke program.
like Jeremy Howard. Oh my God, Jeremy Howard, like so generous with his time, like pair program with us and offered this app in just 50 lines of code with fast HTML. Like this is the idiomatic way to use fast HTML from the creator of fast HTML himself. So I tried
No,
that.
I don't think the choice of using TypeScript is wrong at all. Yeah, I mean it's
No,
like whatever's easy.
it's not. It's just that for me at that point in time, I really wanted to learn TypeScript. I This is my first ever TypeScript app, and without Cursor, I would never have been able to build it. But it's been so fun. It's just a different paradigm, just a different way of building things. So it's fun. So would I build with TypeScript again? Yes. And likely it will still be Next.js. I know a lot of people talk about, the ChatGPT app moving off Next.js to Remix, or like there's other better frameworks. I mean, for me as a beginner, I don't think it really matters. It's like asking, what kind of tennis racket should you use? Should you use this racket, that racket? I mean, for me, I'm just getting into weeds. I think just getting started. I think maybe after my third app or my fifth app, I have a better sense of taste to pick between a different TypeScript app. So I think this is the question I wanted Hamel to answer first. What's a personal record for the largest label set? And Flo, could you drop in the comments, when you say largest label set, do you mean largest label set that we've labeled ourselves, or the largest data set we've gathered, either from open source data or from LLMs or from wherever? Like, what do you mean? And Hamel, maybe what's your personal record for the largest data set, like that you've labeled yourself?
Yeah, I think it's like, so labeling myself, it's probably in the, you know, 5,000 range.
Wow,
But
for a single task.
yes, but
Wow.
but like that was like, so for Code Search Net, This is like this code search net was I really regret the name net at the end of it, but that's what GitHub forced me to do. It's called it like code search. But like it was a semantic, it was a project at GitHub that I led that was like semantic search of code. It was like very early on when like that was cool. Now it's like, who cares? Semantic search of code. It's called an API. But like that was like, that was like really long time ago when like it wasn't that obvious that you could do that. Um, so it was like what it involved was like almost every public GitHub repository, filter for some like notion of quality in terms of like usage, stars, dependencies, things like that, and then like parsing all of the like methods and functions and other like bits of code that had like associated comments, and creating like creating a data set that had comments in code, like pairs that you could use to train a language model on.
That's
And
intense.
so
How
it
long
was
did
like
that
a
take?
so the data gathering part like took a while itself. Like we had to, there was not like a really good internal tool to like get all the data. So we had to basically like scrape GitHub from within GitHub uh in a weird way. And so like we did that, and then we had to clean the data very heavily. And we had to do like a lot of fuzzy deduplication. So like lots of code is the same with like there's a lot of code out there that's like same but with like slight variations. So we had to like dedupe all of that stuff because you don't want to feed that to large language model. You want to like have like a diversity, like whatever. So it took a while to like get that together. There's not just me working on it. There was a bunch of other very talented people. But yeah, this is the largest data set I ever worked with. We made the data set public, like which is like in the millions, or like I think it was like, yeah, it was like a very high number. I didn't look at all of those, but like I had to look at like maybe like in the thousands just to verify. Like like over time I looked at so many.
Yeah, so Hamel built the data set for GitHub Copilot before it was GitHub Copilot. Yeah.
So it was, yeah, it wasn't the, it was actually used, that data set was used in a different way
Mm-hmm.
by the first iteration of GitHub Copilot. Like there's a model called Codex that
Yep.
OpenAI had,
OpenAI Codex. Yeah.
and like they used that data set as like for some benchmarks, which is cool.
So Hamel contributed to the birth of coding assistants, which teaches me TypeScript and helps me with TypeScript. I think personally, the largest record data set, labeled data set I have done for a single task is 2400. I remember
Oh,
that
that's
number
like,
very.
it's pretty, that's like the
Yeah,
same order of magnitude.
yeah, I remember that very well because that was I was like, so I was crunching to deliver a guardrail essentially. And the thing about labeling data sets, right, is that you want balanced data sets of passes and failures and maybe some subjective in the middle. So this was really difficult. So at the start, I would bootstrap myself with open source data sets, some initial labeled data sets. But the problem is that when your defect rate is very low, and my defect rate is in the 5 to 10%, it's really hard to find more defects. So what happened is that, okay, I would train a small model with a couple hundred samples, train a small model, run that model on all of my data to identify more defects, to identify potential defects, look at that defect, look at those defects, identify what was truly defective and what was not truly defective, and then push it back into the model. And then now the model is more precise, and then run it again on all the data to find the harder and harder defects. Essentially, this is active learning, whereby you're using a model, find the defects, push it in. So I know this because this cycle took, I ran it for 6 or 7 cycles actually before, and that was how I gradually pushed the model precision and recall higher and higher. So essentially, what does that actually look like? I want to try to show you an image that I think will answer this very well. Yes, perfect. Here I have this now. So I want to show you this image. So you can imagine, right? You can imagine at the start, your model may look like this, right? Where the red are the defects and the greens are the non-defects. And in this case, the red are the inconsistent, factually inconsistent, and greens are factually consistent. So at the start, it may look like this, whereby the reds and the greens are not very well separated. There's a lot of overlap. But that said, it is fairly usable. This is still usable. You can say that, okay, we take a cutoff at 0.7. Okay, we can say that these are the ones that are likely to be defective. And then we take a cutoff at 0.5, and then we look at the data that's between 0.5 and 0.7 and figure out which was actually red and which was actually green, right? And then as you do this cycle several times, eventually you get something that looks like the right plot here, where you push the stuff that's in the middle over to the ends. Right? You push it so that the model is more and more confident, and you increase your ROC AUC. So for me, that was over a quarter. It definitely took weeks and months, and I can tell you it's mind numbing to be looking at the data. Uh, There'll be some times when I was looking at the data so often that I could just read the first sentence and I could predict the rest of the data. It was training Eugene GPT on the task. So, but looking at the data yourself really gives you a lot of familiarity with the data, and you can even predict. Okay, that thing is definitely going to be solved when we get more data. It can be solved, or this task is or this example is not going to be caught because it's on the border of subjectivity and it's the irreducible error. You can eventually predict what the irreducible error is. But if we didn't have humans actually looking at the data, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And I think with LLMs, it helps a lot as well with explanations.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's really great.
so that's Flo's questions. Thank you, Flo, for those questions. I think the next set of questions comes from Amgad. I'm gonna throw the first one to Hamel. Test-driven development for AI projects. How do you write tests for AI stuff? I know you wrote about this in your product needs AI evals, and you have different assertions, code base, or maybe you
Yeah.
can talk us through it.
Okay, so like first, I think it's important to like write assertions. A lot of people just go straight to LMS judge, but a lot of times there's like dumb stuff. If you're looking at your data carefully, like as much as Eugene does, then like you'll find often you'll find dumb things. Like what is the example of dumb things? Like, okay, like something from the system prompt that should not, that like made its way into the user, into the AI assistant message that's not supposed to be there, or whatever the hell it is. Like there's things that you can test for without LM as a judge, so you should like always, like write those tests. um One question I get a lot is like, what do I test? Like how do I focus on what to test? Like I can test so many things. Like some people come to me and they're like, hey, we have like written like 40 different tests, like we doing it right? I'm like, my question is, well, I don't know, like what do you care about? And what that means is you can infinitely write tests to test like all the different components of your system, um, piece by piece. You can brainstorm infinite tests. But really, like what you should do is ground your tests in what is failing. So like, how do you know what is failing? By doing error analysis. So like error analysis means, it's a fancy word of, going through your data, looking at it like Eugene was just talking about, and noting down like what the different errors were, and like oftentimes just like noting it down by hand, like just typing into a spreadsheet, like this is what happened. And at the very end you get a sense of like, oh, these are like different kinds of errors, this is where like what I'm seeing. And based on those things, like what Eugene is showing on the screen, you just like, you start with writing tests that correlate with your failures. And if you don't know what your failures are, then the larger failure is like you're not looking at the data. You need to look at the data because there's no other way. There's no way out of that. Like we can, like a lot of people try to find a way out. It's understandable. Like you try to find some way out of looking at the data, but there's just no way out because like ultimately, yeah, like ultimately, like you are the final judge, whether you like it or not. Like either you judge it now or you judge it when like some user complains, and then you're like, oh, that was so bad. Well, like you got to do it somewhere.
I fully agree. There's a lot of tools or processes or out-of-the-box solutions that suggest that you can get something without looking at the data. I really don't. In this case, I really don't think there's free lunch. I think that you just have to look at the data to understand what the defects are. And I would agree, I completely agree what Hamel said for error analysis. I think there's another two dimensions that I would also consider, whereby when you're looking at all the errors and not the defects, right? I think there's two things you want to consider. One is the severity of the defect. Okay, so LLMs don't actually make grammatical errors, but if we imagine that, okay, someone says that, okay, grammatical error is a serious is a defect, then the question you have is how severe is it? How severe is a grammatical error as opposed to offensive content or non-safe content? And if it's not that severe, do you really need to evaluate it? As opposed to investing your resources in evaluating for hallucinations or evaluating for relevance or comprehensiveness, etc. The other angle is that you want to assess on the how often would it happen. So again, toxicity is very severe, but almost never happens. I have seen it like 0.001% of the time. It does happen at very large scale, and if you need to have guardrails that to track that, but it seldom happens. On the other hand, hallucinations, especially when your context gets very large with many concepts, and it's not able to reason well enough, is fairly common, like in the 5 to 20% range, right? So those are the things. So essentially, you sort of want to look at it, which one is most severe and which one has high probability of occurrence, and then select those to focus on.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, like, so that stuff in the blog post about error analysis and then like severity of errors, I always found that like, so it's explained here as like a system you go through and you get some report for yourself, but really that's kind of like illustrative. Like if you really go through this, you almost don't need this report in a way.
you would know it.
Like you will like just immediately say, you know what, I need to fix that. This is like
Yep,
such a
exactly.
bad problem. You just stop what you're doing. You're like, let me go fix that right now.
Exactly. The report is just a way to clarify your thoughts and to share it with other people. But if you look at the data, you would see what the errors are or what's good and what's not so good.
Yeah. Like intuitively you'll know like, oh, that's not like you'll know like the highest problem will surface to the top of your mind. And like you will automatically go after the high severity because you'll be like, I have to fix it. And that's what happens every time.
Exactly. Okay. I think Amgad had another question. Uh, what is Hammer? What's your best practice for handling prompts and templates, if you have one? I have a horrible answer, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, prompts and templates. Um, you know, yeah, I put it in GitHub. I use code for the templates. I don't do any like fancy versioning of them or anything. Um, you know, yeah, like I usually my workflow is very code based, you know. There's like prompt playgrounds and stuff out there. I usually don't use those. And what I'll do is like if I want to iterate on a prompt, I'll do so in a notebook or something like that, and I will like um, I might run some experiments. I have some metrics that I'll run my tests against, and I'll track the metrics result. I'll use some kind of tool that tracks results. One tool that I've been using recently that's very nice is open source and really good for people that are like data scientists or people that are like no, they like use Python. You're a data scientist. You like data frames, or you don't mind data frames at least. Like Phoenix Arise is
Hmm.
good because it's open source. So that means you can like kind of use it
Did
anywhere.
they pay you for this product placement? No, I'm kidding.
No, no,
I'm kidding.
no, they don't pay me. But like, I like it actually. It's pretty good. Like, it's a decent. There's not too many open source tools out there that does this focused on this specific thing. There's some other ones, but this one is like good. So I use that. But you don't have to use that. You can use SQLite database. You can even use whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Like I don't necessarily go to that right away.
Yep.
Um, but yeah. What do you use, Eugene?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I saw Flo comment in the comments, YouTube comments. He uses Git and .text. Uh, I'll, I I'm very similar. Every single experiment is a Jupyter notebook, and my prompts are just prompts in triple quotes. Of course, with placeholders for to replace to enter context to replace things for prompt optimization, whatever. I don't really have a prompt manager tool. I guess Jupyter Notebook is my versioning and the manager. And of course, once we go to prod, then we version control it. But before that, in the experimentation phase, I don't really have a lot of tools. That's why I say my answer is a very bad answer. It's maybe not very
This is
clean.
the
It's
best
not very.
answer. It's the very best
It,
answer you can
it's a
probably
bad
give.
answer. Yeah, I think it's a bad answer. I don't. It's not very clean. There's
No, it's
very
the
minimal
best
version.
answer. The
I,
best.
don't-
Like not
I
using any tools, keep it clean, text files, Excel files, whatever.
Exactly.
That's like the
And then the
best.
Jupyter notebook is like you can download it, save, share the HTML. It's like a record. Every Jupyter notebook itself is documentation. You run all the experiments and you just run it all through. So I haven't found I try to use very little tools. Because every one of it is like a new dependency and then it's overhead. I have to learn new things. But that's actually how I deal with it.
Yeah, we got Alex in the chat. He's saying like try Weave, so just try Weave and
Alex, you know what, Alex, I'm gonna DM you. Join us. I didn't see him on the chat earlier. Shoot.
yeah,
Give me a
maybe
sec.
promote Alex into the conversation.
I
Um,
am DMing him now if I can find him.
yeah, I can Twitter DM it.
Yeah, I'm to the DM him. I just DM'd you, Alex. Yeah, I don't know if he's able to join, but okay.
Dude, Alex
So
is look. Alex had like the best
demo
them like thing like
judge.
talk.
Yeah,
Actually, it was like my favorite talk at AI Engineer Loves Fair. It was like
yeah.
so good. Like it was just so funny and entertaining. Like, did you see it?
I did, and Alex has also been to Seattle twice for AI Tinkerers, and twice he's had a demo. And his demo does not look like a demo from like a vendor at all.
Yeah.
It's always fun. Alexa's demos are always fun. Like the recent one, he had a skull thing. Like funniest presentation of all the talks. So I don't know if Alex is gonna be able to have a chance to come to Seattle or if he's able to join us on stage. But yeah. Okay, so that's I'm gonna. Oh, Alex is here. Alex, did you have anything to say about handling prompts and prompt templates or test-driven development?
Can I hear you guys? Hello,
Yeah.
hello, hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, there we go. Hey, what's up?
Hey,
Oh.
what's your any response to best practices for handling prompts and templates or test-driven design? Sorry to
It's,
put you in the spot, man. I mean,
yeah,
but
it's
We
fine.
were just talking about like how you have the best talks.
you have the best talks, and I was just praising you about your talks at AI Thinkers in Seattle.
Oh, really? I missed all that
I
because I was
I, I love
logging
that.
into
Yeah,
It's
like
okay. You can watch the
LM as a
recording.
judge talk is like
Yeah,
amazing.
watch the
It's the
recording.
best vendor talk. Like if you're gonna do a vendor talk, it's like I don't
That
know,
is
So
the
I
bar,
the
was
best
guys.
way.
That's
Hamel.
the bar.
Here's the thing. I love your appreciation about this, and always thank you. I was going for. I'm a relative new to this field. You guys are the experts. This whole track at the engineer was about evals. What's my contribution to this? I'm like fairly new to was back then to this whole field. We with weights and biases, we've was just launched like 3 months before this. What's my contribution? My contribution could be, hey, I can explain what evals are, and then you guys can pick up and say how to make them better. But also memorable. I was going for memorable, and hopefully this worked and kind of set the stage for the
Oh,
next
it's
talk.
amazing.
And yeah, I appreciate it.
We should put a link to this. I'm gonna find a link and put it in the chat because
Oh,
it's really
awesome.
that good.
Yeah, you can try it, or you can DM me. Because I've tried to enter links in YouTube channel, it doesn't work. But I'll add it to
Oh,
the live stream. I can update the description. Yeah. Okay,
And what was the other thing, Eugene? Oh, you said Seattle. Yeah, Seattle was really fun.
you coming again soon?
I
Oh,
should.
Alex, I'm going to SF in from the 21st to 30th. So if you wanna like hang out, yeah. Oh, Hamel can post it. Okay, great. Yeah, it's here. Go watch Alex's LM as a judge talk at
Oh yeah, that's
AI
good.
engineer.
Thank you, thank you. That's dope. So you guys were talking about prompt optimization,
I
and
mean, like you had a comment to Flo that if he tries brain trust before weave, you're not friends anymore. Like, what's that about?
uh, it's a friendly joke between me and Flo. But
No,
basically,
of course I
basically,
know. Yeah, but
basically,
for the rest of the audience.
I work as an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases. Weights and Biases used to be ML experimentation tooling only, and Weights and Biases has a LLM observability and evaluation tool called Weave, which is me and a bunch of other folks are here to promote. Not here specifically. I came to listen to you guys and just like chill with you and just be in the chat while I'm working on other stuff. But then you guys start talking about versioning and prompting and all these things, and this is kind of like what Weave does for you if you just use it. And it's like 3 lines of code, and it's super simple, and it happens automatically. And so now, since I work and kind of promote this, all my projects are Weave tracked anyway. Because it's so simple, I just like everything that I do, I just like drop Weave in there, and the versioning and the prompting happens by default, even in notebooks. So like every notebook that I run, and I just like iterate on prompting. Every side project that I do, like I did with the stuff that I did in Seattle, where I did like
It's true. Even his Halloween talking skull,
even
everything
my
was
even my
logged to weave.
Halloween side project that stands over there in the corner that I didn't
Yeah,
put in the garage yet. The skeleton, everything is weavified,
yeah.
and then I get like the prompt iteration just happens to be tracked, even if I forget to commit to Git, which happens often.
That's great. Okay, I think we have one last question, and maybe I would love to hear Alex. And I think this is exactly what Hamel mentioned, like right at the start of the call, right? So on the topic of evaluating, Hamel mentioned about aligning to business outcomes. Like Hamel, or even maybe yourself, Alex, do you find yourself having to walk through company leadership, educating them about establishing such KPIs, or how do you even come up with such KPIs? Now, what's your experience been?
Experience is like, you know, is actually getting them to look at certain interactions with the AI. Like, let's say it's a B2C, you know, for example, it's like actually getting people to getting the final judge to like actually articulate what they care about. Because like a lot of times it's not clear. It's not like direct, like this is not like a conversion based thing or a there's not like a direct line to some metric. Some
Exactly. And sometimes the metric is very delayed. The reward is very delayed.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's like an onboarding flow, or sometimes it's like what people have like different proxy metrics. It's great when you can have like some direct metric like conversion or something, but like most of the time you don't. So it's like getting that sort of person to like judge some interactions and say like 20 of them and like really articulate like what they care about. Because a lot of times like they don't know. Like you can ask them and they'll tell you, but that thing they tell you is like way off. Like you have to let them look at it like just a bit to then like prompt them, to like react. And then you can start to like get some sort of metric. You can like
Yeah,
design this on that.
yeah, this is really, really, really challenging, Skylar's question, which is how to align even like short-term metrics like recommendations, like clicks and transactions and purchases, how it aligns with long-term customer satisfaction or subscription retention. I mean, Netflix's famous North Star objective is subscriber satisfaction, which a proxy is retention. But how do you even optimize for retention? Well, you don't show them bad movies or you don't show them bad series, I guess. But it's really hard. You can see that their main metric is not really number of minutes watched or number of clicks, but the ultimate metric is really customer satisfaction and retention. So it's really challenging. And I think how Hamel presented it, which is getting
Yeah,
leadership to
it's
look at some of
like
the
an Airbnb. They had a metric called nights booked, and
yeah.
like if you were working on any ML that didn't correlate to nights booked, you were kind of screwed. It was
Oh
like,
no.
oh, like you have an AI that can like maybe help people know the Wi-Fi password. It kind of like it's good,
It's
it
hard.
helps, but
It's hard. Yeah.
it's like it sucks because like then you can't show the nights
You're
booked,
not
and
directly
everyone care about nights
contributing to the
booked.
metric.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
So
like AI is like that. A lot of times it's like not directly,
I think so. I think right now we're at the stage of using LLMs that it's just really hard. Uh, I think as an industry we're still trying to figure it out. Yeah, and there's no clear answer. I think trying to navigate long-term metrics, high-level metrics, and shorter-term. Essentially, you want various levels of metrics, and then you also want to be measuring correlation with your actual long-term metric. That's a challenging problem. Okay, I think we've gotten through all the questions that we have on Slack, not Slack, Twitter, and also questions that people have dropped into YouTube. So
I have a question for you guys.
go ahead, Alex. Oh wow,
Um,
wait. Flo is. I'm looking at Weave now. Easy enough to add a decorator. Does it have a playground too, or soon?
soon TM.
Soon
Playground
TM.
for soon TM. Playground for prompts, whereas you can like play and like hit the prompt and execute is going to be very soon. I think that's what Flow. That's what you mean. But yeah, decorator is very very easy to add, like 3 lines of code. My question to you guys, maybe folks in the audience as well, is that what is one LLM use or like 2 LLM uses in products that are not chat based that you guys love? They're not necessarily around conversational AI. I have a few of my own, and I love some specific ones. I have one to show you. What are some that are not like at all conversational or even summarizational, even that you guys love?
Yeah, I have one that I've worked on as a legal use case, was basically like classifying documents into like, you know, you have to like arrange documents in like very particular way according to like who is the counterparty, who is like what is the document about, like what are the different like, you know, who's like all kinds of like subject area, whatever. And so it's like, you know, instead of having a lawyer that's like $2,000 an hour going through that, you can bootstrap it. So that's really cool. Like, so like a lot of different classification tasks, a lot of different also like data generation. I know that's like meta, but like I like it for data generation.
Sure.
Yeah, I can go ahead. But unfortunately, it might be a summarization task, but this really consumes a lot of my mind and thinking. I think one of my favorite use cases is this. I mean, yes, I work at a bookstore, but I think this really resonates with a lot of
So can
people.
I ask you a question about this? Because I use this
Yeah.
all the time. This like product.
This is dope.
So like,
This
so
is
so
dope.
like
Yeah.
when you scroll up, there's that box you can type in, right? Like the AI thing, Majig.
Yep.
It's like, okay, so I can type in there, but I can also type in. There's also a search thing inside the reviews.
Yep.
Is that related somehow, or is it just you know, yeah.
Well, speaking as on behalf of myself, opinions my
Yeah,
own, and thoughts
yeah,
my own. I think what's happening here is that this is like asking a specific question about the entire page,
okay,
right? About the entire page. Whereas in the reviews, it's searching specifically within the reviews.
I see.
Yeah. So
And
that's
I
how it
found,
works.
because I use this a lot actually, not because of you. I just use it, and like I find that the answers are pretty accurate. Because I ask very specific questions, like, is this compatible with like XYZ model, or like, is this thing gonna work on this thing, or does it? How does it do whatever? And it like does pretty. It's pretty accurate, surprisingly.
That's a great use case. And the mindset I have is that what leads to positive, valuable use cases and what's not. I think in consumer product, the clear heuristic on what customers would love is, does it save them time? For example, a summarization saves them time. Wanting to answer their own questions without having to go through the entire page saves them time. If you can ask a question, chat saves them time. You don't have to Google and go through all of it. On the other hand, I've seen ideas whereby, okay, you can talk to a bot to find your perfect holiday getaway. You know, you generate an avatar for you and everything. It's like, I don't want to turn on my camera to talk to a bot. I just want my freaking holiday and then get on with the rest of my life and have dinner with my wife. So essentially, I think the thing is,
I
are
don't
you
mind
saving people time?
the pressure of sitting in front of something, waiting for me to answer. is not the pressure that I need right now
Exactly.
planning my vacation. I want to like go away and come back and think about this some more. Like, I don't need real time decision. I have plenty of
Exactly.
those in my life.
It depends. I like asynchronous stuff. I communicate best via email. I don't know how Alex and Hamel do it on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. I mean, it's insane. I mean, the amount of energy they have, I can't do that. So that doesn't work well for me. I think the another one that I want to share with you that is, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Again, it's probably because I work at a bookstore. But I can see over here is that there's this thing over here whereby you can see we are what Amazon is doing is that it's grouping manga together and trying to give a simple explanation to it.
Wait, this is Amazon?
Yeah,
Whoa.
Amazon Japan.
Oh wow.
This is so you can. I think this is really beautiful and it helps people understand. Oh, what are these books about? Or what is this manga about? I mean, and the colors are really pretty, yeah. But this is really utilitarian, at least for me. But anyway, that's my two things. Yeah. So what about you, Alex?
I have
What's your thought?
example pulled up.
What's your spicy example?
It's not
Why
spicy.
is that chat like kind of? It's like kind of hidden though. It's like a little bit like tucked away, sort of in the bottom. You may not see it. Why? It's interesting.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm as a customer of Amazon. I don't know. I wish it was higher as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe because the team that works on this needs to, fight politically harder. Because that page is like multiple teams probably fighting for priority getting to the top of the page, I'm assuming. I want to show this. Hopefully I am able to. Yeah, I can show this.
Yeah, go ahead and start sharing it and I'll add it to the stage. Okay, it's up.
Yeah. So this is Dub. This is a very very awesome link shortener thingy. They have this thing where wherever this icon shows up, they do a bunch of stuff with AI. And in the link shortener specifically, when you paste a link, let's say this, right? It's a long ass link. In the link shortener, you're expected to like fill out the short link yourself. When you click this link, when you click this link and it actually works, they read the content of the page and they create.
Wow, they read the content of the page, not just the URL.
Yes, and they read the content of the page and they generate the short link for you. And I'm like, this is delightful. This is exactly what I want AI to do. This is a tiny thing that made my day better, and I didn't have to chat with anything. Like I clicked one button and it just worked.
That's the thing. It saves you time. It saves you cognitive load. It lets you be lazy, and then you would use it all the time. I actually wonder how often people actually update that AI provided default.
Yeah.
I think it would be very seldom.
And
but this is amazing.
This is amazing. He has a bunch of stuff like this in analytics, for example. He has filters, and you can just like, this is conversational a little bit, but that's also one thing I love, and I would love everywhere. You can just like clicks on this in this area, and he translates it to SQL. This is conversational, but also I would love every analytics product.
Did you see those queries? Did you write those queries, or were those?
No. This is
suggested?
examples. This is examples.
Oh, these are examples. Okay.
How it works. There's like clicks, on from China in the last 24 hours, and then he's gonna translate to filters. That is sensational, but also like very, very, very nice. Oh
wow!
I'm really fascinated with like text to SQL. I think it's like I think it's like really underrated area.
Yeah.
That people don't talk about it that much, like how to do it well, like how to make systems that do it well.
And there are models specifically for that. There's models that they're like specialized and get really, really, really good, because that's like constrained space. Though you do have to get very good at this, you have to kind of shill out your company's like full structure, right? Schema, right? All of it.
That's the thing that's really interesting, because you might have a data warehouse that's like a spaghetti. Like so many tables and everything and so much metadata. Maybe like your table's not even documented, like all this stuff, like how, it's like interesting. Like, how do you do that well?
I think that's where like local models shine, actually, because then you don't want to send this to like Anthropic. You actually want that information to be like, safe and secure. And that's where like you would maybe pay to host a local model, actually run this yourself when you don't want to send your whole schema that maybe actually specific data. But yeah, the cognitive reduction with one button, I think I genuinely love every time I use some of those features. And I hope that people build more of those. How does he evaluate whether or not those work? I doubt that he does. Do you guys think that
No,
there's any
it's
like
so
evals?
it's so easy. Whether it's accepted or not, that's it. The implicit feedback is built in. That's the beauty of it.
Oh, whether people change them after the
Yeah,
person comes
yeah.
suggested? Yeah, probably, yeah.
And if it's a change, what's the edit distance, right? It's so and then you can take all the different changes and then you put it through an
Oh, I have a
LLM. It's
funny
the
story
trend.
about edit distance actually.
Go for it.
So like I was working with a client and they have like this thing that can write emails for you. And it's like for HR, like the recruiters reaching out to you for jobs. The exact thing you don't want AI to do, but whatever. And so like the metric they used was like edit distance. And then they're like, oh, like, we're optimizing edit distance, so like whatever, the recruiter doesn't have to make that many edits. And then we started looking at it, and then like the recruiter edits were like making it much worse. Like they were
What
adding
do you
like
define as worse?
bad grammar.
Lovely.
Oh,
Like there's
wow.
non-native English speakers editing English. And it was like, yeah, just adding like things that were like, okay, this is like written in India. Like not, it was native English speakers, but not the style that you could tell right away, like, okay, this is not from here. And I was like, no, like this is bad. Like this, the metric is bad. Like, so it's really interesting. Like when you don't look at the data, look at what's happening,
Exactly.
you just have metrics, then you can go off the rails.
And on the point that Hamel just mentioned, I actually think that for a lot of tasks, I think for more tasks that we can imagine, LLM output is actually already superhuman. Like I mentioned, LLMs don't make grammatical errors. They don't make spelling errors.
Unless you have.
Yeah, very, very seldom. I mean, their summarization is a lot. I think it's more concise and more fluent, more coherent than human summarization. I mean, just considering quality, putting aside time and money, right? So I think people are surprised, and I think it's gonna suddenly catch up on a lot of people. Wow, this thing is really, really good, and I should be using it more in my work. Yeah. Okay, I think we will wrap up in about 5 or 10 minutes. Any last questions? Any last, like, what's on your mind recently? I mean, Hamel, how's your new laptop?
It's really good. Yeah, it's like really
Everybody's
fast.
getting a new laptop. I don't get this. Like everybody's
I
asking me, like,
have. What are you talking about? You just got a new laptop last year. I mean, I saw your tweet thread
oh, last year. Like it's been a year.
last year. I got my last laptop was like 5 years ago. It's still
Wow.
an Intel. My Intel MacBook Pro. I cannot wait to play with my. I haven't unboxed it yet. I've been too busy, but I'm gonna try all the different. Oh, Alex, favorite tools. What is your Alex and Hammer? What is your top 2 favorite tools to install on a Mac?
You cannot ask me to cover favorite tools in less than 5 minutes.
Hammer, just
Crazy.
top two, just the top 2. You have to be very focused.
Okay.
If
Whisper Flow.
I knew you say that.
And
We can skip all the basics like Brew or Xcode or like yeah.
it's really hard. Whisper Flow.
Okay,
Everything,
Alex,
yeah.
your number 1. What's your top 2? That you can other than 1Password. I actually don't understand. Alex, let me ask you this: why do you use 1Password?
Oh, so it's not just AI tools?
Any kind of tools, any kind of tool. Okay.
Why
Not
don't you
just-
use one dude? So first of all,
What's wrong with Apple password?
let me connect my YouTube.
Oh, you gonna show us all your passwords?
No, I'll send my my thread here in the YouTube chat so folks will be able to see my whole setup at the thread
Try it.
that I shared with you. What's wrong with Apple Password? It only works on Apple. 1Password works on my Windows machine as well. And
see, that's the problem.
You have a Windows machine?
You have a
Why do
Windows
you-
machine. That's the problem.
Again,
No, I'm kidding.
again,
Yeah.
man, I have a gaming rig, and
you need passwords in your gaming rig.
I need passwords everywhere. I don't need to be restrained to Apple only.
I
And
see,
I know
makes
that
sense.
Apple sometimes,
Yeah, that's the problem. It's censoring links.
but not only that, the Apple's thing became a thing only in last year. Before that, they didn't have a separate app. It used to be
only recently. Yeah,
yeah,
only very
it used to be
recently.
in settings. I use 1Password for over a decade. The feature set in 1Password is insane. There's like a bunch of stuff that Apple doesn't do. Like I think Apple still
SSH keys.
authentication. SSH keys is incredible. I think
Like that was the one thing I thought I might need 1Password for. I've never used 1Password or any other password manager.
I think I have the same SSH key for the past like 7 years. the
Oh
same.
wow! Like, can you share it?
Yeah,
No,
I
I'm
can share the
kidding.
public one. Yeah, this is how it
Wait, you
works.
store your SSH key
In
in
one
one
password.
password?
Yes, and I store the private one in my password, and it exposes it as an agent to all my like terminals. And
Wow,
so every
That's
Mac that I
pretty
go
powerful,
to,
right?
I
yeah,
didn't know you could do that.
and it's incredible. It's incredible because that's the one that's stored in GitHub. That's the one that's stored everywhere. And so every like place that I go to, instead of copying and pasting stuff and SSH keygen and then remembering how whatever, I just like install one password. It installs it in the agent, and then that's it. I'm done. I'm set up.
Wow.
Okay, Alex, what's your number one favorite tool other than one password for Mac?
I cannot. The one that I cannot live without,
Okay.
absolutely. Raycast. I think without Raycast, I can. You know what? The
Fair
first thing
point.
that I install is absolutely one password because like all my
Okay.
passwords are there, etc. I cannot live without Raycast. Raycast is my absolute must.
I use Raycast
I
as well.
tried Raycast, but I didn't. I need to like watch one of y'all use it.
You
I
want
use
a
it for very basic. I use it for very
Yeah.
basic stuff.
super quick
Actually,
demo?
yeah, okay, let's do a demo.
Of Raycast. Entire screen of this. Yeah, sure. So Raycast. Do you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of the second screen here. Yeah. So Raycast, the cool thing about this is the store is integrated. So basically, when you open Raycast, you open store, everything imaginable that you want to add to your tool set is very easily installable. So like if you want Google Drive, you just like store Google Drive, you hit install and you install it. So if you want to like search through all your Google Drive things, you just like 3 clicks away and you can search all your Google Drive.
Oh, that's sick. Is that Google Drive, or is that Google Drive integration for Raycast?
Google Drive integration for Acast.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So-
I thought you could install everything from Raycast, but
Yeah.
this is pretty nice.
So like think of a workflow. Most likely somebody built it for Acast. Most likely. Like I showed you dub.sh before, right? Dub is the link shortener. There's
Yep.
a dub link shortener like thing. And then now I can search like dub search links. I can search all the links that everybody created right in here from Raycast. And the cool thing is you can build your own. Like the API is super simple. So you whatever API-able thing you have in your
Brain.
whatever in your workflow, you can build an app extremely quickly. Like for example, decrease Spotify. So think of Raycast as
Is that one you built, the decreased volume?
no, this is Spotify. Somebody built Spotify. I just installed Spotify.
Have you built any of them? That do you can you use any language you want, or what's
Yeah,
about,
I built a few. I built a few that I didn't port. I built a few for Alpha that I didn't port. I basically just installed a bunch. The ones that I built are not necessarily interesting. The ones that I use all the time is this one. Download video for Twitter. I use pretty much every week. I just grab a Twitter link and I paste it here and I download the video. I download a video for YouTube. I love this one.
I didn't know this was available in Raycast.
Yeah. It's just like basically you're doing everything, and if that's available, you make it available.
You can build it, yeah.
Wow, so I'm using this like YTDL command
So,
CLI
dude,
tool.
YTDLP is built into like in
Raycast.
yeah, and then it's like a simple UI. And the thing is, the less mouse you use, the faster you are generally. There's like this scan QR code. If you want to scan QR code on the Mac, I don't know how else you would do it. I do it like that.
Yeah, I don't know how else to do it either.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff. Honestly, there's the AI features that I don't use. You have to pay for them. But the one thing that I cannot live without in Raycast, the one thing is clipboard history. Clipboard history is honestly, I talk about clipboard history in the way where most people who I tell about productivity features, their life is like bifurcated to two. Before the
Clipboard history.
when they have one slot in clipboard history, and after when they have multiple slots in clipboard history. So Raycast has support for clipboard history. This is my clipboard history. It has a bunch of stuff, and you can see text and images. You can like say, here's all the images that I have in my clipboard history. Here's all the files. I use this incredibly, like I use this a lot. It's a shortcut. Go ahead, Eugene.
Let me guess, Alex. Open your Chrome. How many tabs do you have open?
I use Arc. So I have.
Open your,
I haven't been able to like Arc.
Actually, same. My dirty confession. I only use Safari.
Yeah, I have a bunch because
See, that's the thing. I realized there's two kinds of people. There's kinds of people that collect a lot of tabs and a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and there's kinds of people that just cannot deal with it. I'm in the second
Oh,
half.
I do command Q all the time, like three
I
times a
quit.
day.
I quit Safari
I'm just like,
after.
we're done. Like
gonna kill-
command,
Yeah,
like
we're
let's
done.
get rid of it. Yeah.
It's okay. If I need it again, I will find it,
Yeah.
or someone will send it to me, and that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Arc is gonna auto clean. You guys started something. We can spend like 5 hours, and I don't mind it.
I
love
can't
it.
even deal with
Yeah.
7 days. I was like, I need
This
to
is for
start
me
every day with a fresh, clean slate.
because I do Thursday. I do a bunch of links every Thursday.
That's true. You
I
need
want
to
to like
collect
show
those.
them as
Yeah.
well, so I collect. But yeah, absolutely, you don't need this. But hey, back to Raycast. I have Arc here, and I have search tabs. So every tab that I have, like I can talk to you guys. I don't have to go to Arc. I can do from wherever I am, and I'm in Slack. I can pull up something, and it's like the one thing that I love is I have a shortcut for search history. Every tab that I ever visited, you said like you can find it again. I can search the history from Arc from wherever I am. So like Eugene,
Wow.
Yan.
That's huge.
Here's every.
Alex is like a productivity master.
Yeah, I did productivity before I did AI, and I think that I still love productivity. So
Wait, what do you mean you did productivity before you did AI?
I considered doing productivity full time instead of doing AI full time at some point.
Like working on productivity software and stuff?
Like going and doing consulting productivity and like building productivity software, like whatever it is. This is my other passion in life.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, teaching people. Basically, here's every Twitter that I visited on Eugene. Here's every tweet that I visited on Hamel. Where is it? Yeah. So like all of the history that I ever visited and at my fingertips because of this with a shortcut. Right. So it's super useful, and it's in Raycast. Just some of the power of Raycast. Clipboard history, search history, like everything. Is that enough? That's the one tool
that was awesome.
Live without. Absolutely.
Maybe
Anyway, you guys
like productivity thing.
We should actually. Maybe we should do another office hours. Alex, you host one.
Yeah, just do like productivity with Alex. Like
and then I'll install my Mac, and along the way, it's like, Alex, am I using this app right? Am I using this app right?
I've been promising this for a year, maybe internally.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it by the end of the year. We'll find some time.
All right.
Okay, I gotta drop, but you guys carry on. I'm gonna remove myself.
I'm dropping as well, dude.
Yeah, I gotta drop as well.
Okay, I guess everyone. I guess you're dropping. I'm gonna end the stream right now. Thank you.